The strange old woman in the wheelchair in a small, quiet town surrounded by thick forests and empty fields. There lived a strange old woman. She sat every day in a rusty wheelchair outside a broken wooden house. The house was at the edge of the forest, far from the main road. People rarely passed by, and when they did, they never stopped. No one knew her name. No one knew where she came from. She never spoke. She never asked for anything. She just sat there, staring at the sky. Her skin was pale. Her white hair hung like dry strings. Her eyes were dark and deep, like they had seen too many years. The chair she sat in was old, maybe older than her. The wheels were cracked. The seat was torn. But still, she sat there every single day. People in town called her the wheelchair ghost. Children were scared of her. Adults avoided her. Some said she was cursed. Some said she was crazy. Others believed she was waiting. But no one knew for what. Then, one day, a new man came to town. His name was Jake. Jake was quiet and kind. He had just moved from the city after losing his job. He wanted peace, a fresh start. He rented a small house not far from the forest. One morning, while walking to the local shop, Jake saw the woman in the wheelchair. She was sitting in the same spot, looking at the sky. Jake slowed down. Something about her made him stop. She didn't blink. She didn't move, just stared. Jake felt strange, like time had stopped. The wind blew softly, leaves moved, but she didn't. It was like she was part of the earth. Good morning, Jake said, softly. No answer. He tried again. Do you need help? But still nothing. Not even an eye movement. He stood there for a few seconds, then walked away, but something in her eyes stayed with him. They were sad. Not empty. That night at the local diner, Jake asked the old man behind the counter, "Who is that woman in the wheelchair?" The man's hands froze. He looked up slowly. "Don't go near her," he said. "She's been like that for 15 years. 15 years? Sitting outside?" "Yes," the man said. "She came here one night, no one saw where from. Just appeared, hurt, bleeding. She never spoke a word." Jake was shocked. Did no one help her? "We tried," the man said. Doctor came. Police came. She refused everything. She just sat in that chair and looked at the sky. Always the sky. Jake thought it was strange, but also sad. That night he couldn't sleep. The image of the old woman's eyes haunted him. The next morning, Jake went for a walk again. This time, he took a sandwich and a bottle of water. When he reached the house, she was there. As always, he placed the food gently beside her. "I don't know if you're hungry," he said, "but I brought this for you." No answer. He smiled gently and walked away. The next day, the food was gone. Jake kept doing this for a week. No words. No movement. Just quiet kindness. But one night, everything changed. It was past midnight. Jake was drinking tea by his window when he saw a flash of light in the sky. A bright, fast-moving light. Like a shooting star, but much bigger. It flew down and disappeared behind the forest. Then he saw something even stranger. A figure walking slowly in the distance. It was the woman. She wasn't in her wheelchair. She was walking. Jake stood up. Shocked. She walked with slow steps, almost floating. Her long coat moved like smoke. She disappeared into the forest. Jake ran to the door. But by the time he reached outside, she was gone. He looked at the wheelchair. It was empty. From that night on, Jake knew something was wrong. Or something was hidden. Who was this woman? How could she walk after 15 years? What was that light in the sky? And most of all, why did she always look up? He didn't have answers. But he knew one thing for sure. This was not just an old woman in a wheelchair. This was something more. And he was going to find out. It had been 5 nights since Jake saw the old woman walking into the forest. Every night since. He stayed up late, sitting near his window, watching. But she never moved again. She just sat in her chair like always, silent, frozen, watching the sky. Jake couldn't forget what he saw. He asked himself the same question over and over again. How can a woman who hasn't moved in 15 years suddenly walk like a ghost through the night? There was something about her, something not human. He didn't tell anyone. The town people already feared her. They would call him crazy. Or worse, they might try to hurt. Jake didn't want to scare her. He wanted to understand her. And one evening, just before sunset, Jake walked to her house again. This time he didn't bring food. He brought a small notebook and a pen. He sat on a fallen tree nearby, not too close, but close enough for her to hear him if he wanted to. He opened the notebook. I don't know your name, he said softly, but I feel like you have a story. Maybe you can't tell it out loud, so I'll write instead. He began writing. Day 1. She looked at the sky again. Maybe she's waiting for something, or someone. Her eyes are not empty. They are full, but full of what? She didn't respond, but her fingers moved just a little. Jake saw it. A slight twitch. She heard him. That night, Jake stayed awake again. No light in the sky. No movement from the chair. But just as he was about to sleep, he heard something dot, tap, 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 dot. He looked out the window, dot, nothing, dot. He opened his door and stepped outside. The wind was stronger tonight. Then he saw it, the notebook. It was lying on his porch, dot. He picked it up, heart racing. He opened it on the last page. In shaky handwriting, there were 2 words, thank you. The next day, Jake returned to her again. This time, he sat closer. He placed a second notebook between them. He also brought a scarf. It was cold today. You don't have to speak, he said. Just write, or sit, or anything. I'll be here. He wrapped the scarf gently around her shoulders. This time, she blinked, dot, a slow, heavy blink, dot, the first sign of emotion. Jake kept coming back. For days. Every day he wrote something new. Sometimes just one sentence. Do you have a name? Are you from Earth? Are you alone? Sometimes she answered, dot, never much. Only short replies in the notebook. I was not always alone. The sky is not empty. You are kind, that is rare. Every answer led to more questions, dot, who is she? Why did she come here? Why live in silence? For 15 years. One night, Jake followed a feeling. The moon was full. The air felt different charged. Electric. He went to her house. She wasn't there, dot, her wheelchair was empty again. Jake didn't wait. He followed the narrow path into the forest. He walked for 10 minutes, 15, 20. Then he saw it, a faint blue, glow through the trees. He stepped closer, heart pounding. There she was, standing tall. No chair, no scarf, no weakness. She wasn't the same old woman now. Her back was straight. Her face was calm. Her eyes were glowing softly blue, dot. In front of her was a small floating object, like a metallic sphere. It hovered in the air, spinning. Slowly, making soft sounds like a machine speaking in dreams, dot, Zora. He didn't know her name yet, but it felt right, with speaking in a strange musical language. Her voice was not old. It was beautiful. Smooth. Not human, dot. Jake couldn't breathe. He stepped on a twig, dot, snapped up. The sound echoed like thunder in the silence. Forest, dot. She turned quickly. Their eyes met. She didn't look angry. She looked afraid. Her hand reached out. The sphere vanished into the air like smoke. Please, she said. A single word. Her voice shook. Don't tell them. Jake nodded slowly. I won't, he whispered. But I want to know the truth. She looked at him, dot, long and deep, dot. Then she said something that changed everything. If you help me, I'll show you what's coming. Jake didn't sleep that night. He sat with the notebook in his hands. One line written in her hand. I ran from war. But war found me again. And now, it was here, on Earth. The forest was quiet, dot, too quiet, dot. Jake stood in the dark trees, heart pounding. Eyes fixed on the woman standing before him, tall, glowing slightly, not old anymore, not weak, not human. She looked at him with calm eyes. Sad eyes. Eyes I had seen. Too many worlds burn. I am not from here, she said. Dot, her voice was soft, like wind through glass. Clear, not broken. Not old, dot. Jake took a breath. Then, where? She looked up. The stars, she whispered. They sat by the glowing tree roots. The sphere had disappeared, but a strange blue light remained, as if the ground itself remembered her. Jake waited. He didn't ask questions? Not now. She began to speak. My name is Zelra, she said. I was born on a planet called Iliora. It was once full of life, blue rivers, crystal mountains, creatures that flew without wings. Jake, listen. We lived in peace. For thousands of years, we shared knowledge. We never knew war. Her hands trembled slightly, but one day, they came. Her voice changed. Machines. Cold, silent, without mercy. They came from the edge of space. No one knew who built them. No one knew why they destroyed. Her eyes glowed brighter now. They did not want land or power. They wanted silence. They erased every voice, every memory. They wanted nothing left alive. Jake's fingers tightened on the notebook in his lap. Zelra looked at him. I was a scientist. I helped build the star map. We searched for a safe world. We found Earth. You came here to hide? Jake asked. She nodded. My ship was damaged. I crashed. Others didn't make it. She looked away. I was the only one left. Jake thought of her in that old wheelchair. 15 years, alone, hiding, watching the sky. Why the wheelchair? He asked. I was hurt. My leg was broken. I used Earth parts to build the chair. Then I never left it. It became my cover. If I looked weak, no one would fear me. Jake felt a lump in his throat. But why now? He asked. Why speak to me? Zoto looked at him. Her voice cracked for the first time. Because the machines found me again. A cold silence fell over the forest. Jake looked around. The shadows suddenly felt heavier. They are here? He asked. Not yet, she said. But soon. I felt their signal last night. That's why the sky burned. Jake remembered the flash. The light falling from above. They don't send armies first, she whispered. They send scouts, silent ones, to listen, to track. To prepare the kill, Jake stood up. Then we have to go. You can't stay here. Zelra didn't move. I can't run anymore. I'm tired. Jake stared at her. Then I'll help. You fight. Zelra looked at him, long and deep. For a second, her eyes shimmered. Why? She asked. You don't even know me. Jake smiled faintly. Because you were alone too long. And no one should die in a chair, pretending to be something they're not. A sudden breeze moved through the forest. Cold, sharp. Zelra stood. She looked up at the sky. They'll come. For me, she said. But if they find this planet strong, they will leave. They only destroy the weak. Jake frowned. Then we show them we're not weak. She turned to him. Then we begin tonight. Jake followed her deeper into the forest. They reached a hidden place where metal pieces lay half buried in moss. Parts of her crashed ship. Zelra placed her hand on a broken panel. It lit up, blue lines dancing across the metal. This is all I had left, she said. Jake looked at the strange devices. Can we use it? He asked. Zelra nodded slowly. Enough to send a warning. Or to build a weapon. As they worked under the moonlight, Zelra told him more. About her people. About their songs. About the stars that no longer shine. Jake wrote everything in the notebook. Every word. Every truth. He looked at her not as a ghost anymore. Or a strange old woman. She was a survivor. A warrior in silence. A guardian of stories no one had heard. And now she had someone to tell them too. But far above them in the silent sky, something cold was already watching. A machine with no name. And it had already found its next target. Earth. The stars were falling the night Zelra escaped her. World. But they weren't stars. They were ships. Burning. Crashing. Screaming through the dark sky. Like firebirds with broken wings. Jake sat beside her in the forest clearing. The moonlight touched Zelra's face, making her silver eyes shimmer like glass. In front of them, pieces of her broken ship lay like a dead animal in the dirt. I don't tell this story often, she said. Jake looked at her, notebook in hand. Zelra's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. My planet didn't die in one day, she began. It died in silence, slowly, while we kept pretending it was fine. She looked up at the sky again. That's what they do, the machines. Wait, they study. Then they strike where it hurts the most. She closed her eyes, and suddenly Jake could almost see what she saw. The sky of Eliora was purple. Two moons danced around it. Floating cities shimmered in the clouds, powered by thought and light. Zelra was a scientist, a builder of minds. Her job was to shape machines that help people, not hurt them. But the enemy didn't care. They arrived like shadows with no face, no message, no warning. Just a sound. A low, endless hum, like a deep voice under the ground, and then things stopped. Working, light, water, communication, and people. They shut off our planet like someone turns off a machine. She said, Jake listened quietly. Even the wind had stopped. Zara took a deep breath. I lost everyone. My teacher, my brother, my son. Jake's heart dropped. You have a son? She nodded, slowly. I tried to carry him to the escape port, she whispered. But we were attacked. I was injured. I don't remember much after that. Her eyes filled with tears, but none fell. I woke up, alone in my ship, in space, floating, half alive. Jake didn't speak. What could he say? Pain like that didn't need words. It just needed silence. And presence. She wiped her face gently. My ship broke apart in Earth's orbit. I crash-landed. In the forest, I was bleeding. My leg was useless. I thought I would die. Her eyes softened. But Earth was quiet, peaceful. I had not seen peace in so long. So I stayed. She looked at him. But I never stopped watching the sky. Jake finally asked, Did you ever try to call for help? Zelra shook her head. If I called, the machines would hear. If I stayed quiet, maybe they would forget me. But they didn't, Jake said. No, Zelra replied. They found me. She stood up and moved toward the old ship panel. It's not just about me anymore, she said. If they are coming, they will not stop with me. They will scan the Earth, measure your strength. If you are weak, they will erase this planet too. Jake stepped beside her. Then let's show them we're not weak. Zelra turned to him, almost surprised. Would you really fight for someone like me? Jake gave a soft smile. No, I would fight for someone who didn't give up, even after losing everything. That night, under a blanket of stars, they began working. Zelra showed Jake how to connect the crystal core to Earth's power grid. They built a signal shield, something to hide her heat signature for a few more days. She showed him alien symbols. Jake copied everything in his notebook. I'm not a soldier, he said, wiping sweat from his forehead. She looked at him and said, Neither was I. But far away in a cold orbit above Earth, the first scout had already arrived. It looked like a black star. It made no sound. It moved through space, like a spider without strings. And it had found something strange. A pulse, weak, but not human. It began sending a message. A silent signal back home. One that said, Target found. Prepare to cleanse. Meanwhile, in the forest below, Jake asked one last question. Zelra, if we lose, what happens? She paused for a long time, then said, quietly, then we become stars. The forest no longer felt safe. Even the birds had stopped singing. Zelra stood still, her eyes closed, face lifted toward the sky, as if listening to something Jake could not hear. Then she whispered, They are here. It had been 2 nights since Jake and Zelra started preparing. They had built a small barrier with alien tech, just strong enough to mask Zelra's energy. They stayed quiet. No signals, no lights. Just waiting. But the waiting was over. Something had crossed Earth. Edge. Not loud. Not bright. Not human. Far above Earth. Hidden behind the moon's shadow. A ship moved without sound. It was not shaped like any Earth satellite. It had no engines. No windows. It looked more like a black insect, round, smooth, covered in small blinking lights. Inside, there were no pilots. Only machines. Metal bodies with long arms, red lights, for eyes and memories of hundreds of destroyed worlds. This was not an army. This was a test. Back in the forest, Jake felt it too. A weight in the air, a pressure in his chest. Are they close? He asked. Zelra didn't answer right away. Instead, she opened the metal box hidden inside her ship's wreckage. She pulled out a device small, silver, shaped like a star. What is that? Jake asked. She placed it on the ground. An eye. She said, a way to see what can't be seen. The silver object floated, hummed softly, and opened like a flower. A blue light projected in front of them. It showed the sky and something moving inside. It too fast, too quiet, too. Cold Jake stared at the floating shape. That's one of them? Zelra nodded. A scout. It won't attack. Not yet. It watches. It listens. Jake's hands balled into fists. What's it listening for? Fear, she said. Weakness. Panic. If it senses chaos, it calls the others. Jake swallowed hard. And if we act strong? Zelra looked at him. Serious. Then it waits. Or leaves. Sometimes. But not always. That night, the scout came closer. It moved through the upper sky. Invisible to radar. Unseen by satellites. But Zelra could feel it. Every move, every scan. It hovered above the town for a moment. Then above the forest. Then dash above them. Zelra grabbed Jake's arm. Don't move. Don't breathe loud. The silver eye dimmed its light. The forest was silent. Jake could feel his heartbeat in his ears. Suddenly. Above the trees, a light flickered faint and red, like a tiny open eye. Drone. Small. Floating. Black like coal. It scanned the ground with a thin red beam. Zelra pulled Jake behind her. Raised her hand. A quiet pulse came from her fingers. A wave of light, almost invisible. The drone paused. Then turned and flew away. They waited another 10 minutes before either spoke. Jake finally said, You stopped it. Zelra nodded. That was only the scout's drone. The real danger is what comes after. Jake looked up. How much time do we have? She looked at the stars again. 3 days, she said. Maybe less. Back in space, the scout continued. Its silent mission. It had gathered sound. Light. Movement. It had seen Zelra, and it had recorded one word, spoken softly by a human. A name. Zelra. The machine stored it. Then sent a pulse across the stars. One word. Confirmed. Somewhere far away, in deep space, dozens of red eyes lit up. The army had been asleep. Now they were awake. And they had a new destination call on Earth. The next morning. Jake and Zelra began working again. No time for fear. They gathered more energy from the crash ship's power cells. They started building a signal trap to pull the machines to one spot if needed. Zelra also showed Jake a map. It wasn't of Earth. It was of the galaxy. Stars circled in gold. Red X's marked destroyed worlds. Jake counted 37. Those were planets? He asked. Zelra nodded. Yes, beautiful ones. And they're all gone? Yes, she said softly. Like dust. Jake stared at the last unmarked planet on the edge of the map. Earth. Still. Shining. Still alive. But maybe not for long. Jake looked at her. Can we stop them? Zelra didn't lie. Maybe not. But I won't run again. She handed him something. It was small. Cold. Metallic. A weapon. Jake had never held. One like it before. He didn't want to, but he closed his hand around it anyway, because now Earth was no longer just home. It was the last light left. 3 nights. That's all. Earth had left. Zelra felt it in her bones. Jake felt it in his chest. And the sky dark and restless felt heavier. With each passing hour, the machines were coming, not to talk, not to warn, but to erase. Jake stood in the forest, holding the alien weapon Zelra gave him. It hummed in his hand, quiet, warm, alive. It wasn't shaped like a gun. It looked like a smooth, glowing stone. He had never held a weapon in his life. Now, it felt like the only thing between life and nothing. Zelra moved fast between the trees. Her leg had healed, but her time hadn't. She was building something big. A tall metallic structure stood in the center of the clearing now. It was made from ship parts, forest metal, wires, and something glowing blue. Jake watched as she connected the final piece. What is it? He asked. She looked up. A voice? A voice? Zelra nodded. A signal tower. It will send a message across space, not to them, but to anyone else out there. A last call. A distress beacon. She paused, or a goodbye. The plan was simple. If the machines landed, the tower would lure them here. The weapon Jake held was connected to the tower's core. If the timing was perfect, it could create an energy burst strong enough to destroy everything within the landing zone, including the scouts. It would be their only chance. If they failed, there would be no second try. As the sky darkened, Jake sat beside the tower and opened his notebook. He read her words again. We lived in peace until they made silence. He turned the page. I lost my son. I don't want to lose your planet too. Another page. If I fall, let someone remember. I tried. Jake stared at the stars above. He wasn't a hero. He was a school teacher once, a normal man, a man who liked coffee and old books. But now he was. Earth's voice, and maybe its shield. The wind began to howl. The trees bent, and the sky turned red. They're coming, Zelra said, standing tall, not scared, not shaking, but ready. From the far horizon, lights began to move, not like planes, not like anything human. They blinked in patterns, cold, exact, soulless. 3 scout ships descended silently. No engines. No fire. Just motion. Like falling knives. Jake stood beside Zelra. He tightened his grip on the weapon. She looked at him and said softly, You can still leave. He shook his head. And let them take the world without a fight? He smiled faintly. Besides, I've never seen a sunset like this before. Zelra blinked once, then smiled too. A real smile, the kind that had been missing for 15 years. A scout ship hovered above the clearing. Then slowly they descended. Metal legs unfolded. A hatch opened. From each one, a machine stepped out. Tall, thin, smooth black bodies. No faces. Only one single red eye. Glowing in the center of their heads. They didn't speak. They didn't move fast. They just scanned. Reading everything. The tower. The air. Zelra. Jake. Then one of them raised its hand. A red dot formed on Jake's chest. Zelra whispered, Now, Jake. Press the stone. Silence. Then light. The clearing exploded in a blue shockwave. The machines froze. The scanner beams cracked. The ship shook. One machine tried to lift its hand, but its joints locked. Another turned, but its foot melted into the ground. The third tried to speak, but Zelra raised her own hand and said something in her alien tongue, soft but firm. The machine's red eye blinked. Once. Then went dark. Smoke rose from the ground. Machines collapsed hollow, steaming. The ships above trembled. Then fled, back into the clouds, back into space. Jake dropped the stone. He couldn't breathe for a moment. Then he laughed. A quiet, broken laugh. We did it? Zelra was breathing hard, but she was smiling. They'll return, she said. Jake nodded. Then we'll be ready. That night, the forest slept again, but Earth had changed. Jake and Zelra had sent a message. Earth is not silent, and Earth is not weak. In the distance, far beyond Earth's sky, a larger ship had received a failure signal. It didn't get angry. Machines don't feel rage. It simply updated its calculation. One line of data changed. Earth, status, not passive. It would return. With more. But this time, Earth wouldn't be waiting. This time, Earth would be watching too. The forest was quiet again, but it was not the same. Silence as before. This silence had meaning. This silence had been earned. Zelra sat by the broken tower, her hand pressed against the last glowing crystal. Jake stood beside her, watching the sunrise. 4. The first time, the sky was clear. No red lights. No machines. No shadows. Just blue. Endless. Peaceful blue. They'll come back, Jake said quietly. Zelra nodded. Yes. Stronger. Smarter. He looked at her. Can we stop them again? She didn't answer. Instead, she placed a small black chip in his hand. It was warm. Soft light blinked on its surface. What is this? He asked. Zelra looked up at the sky. My mind. Jake's eyes widened. Your memory? She nodded. My thoughts. My language. My history. My mistakes. My hope. Jake stared at the chip. Why give it to me? Zelra smiled softly. Because I won't survive the next attack. The words hit him like thunder. No, don't say that, he said. Zelra placed a hand gently on his shoulder. I am not made for war. I am made for memory. But memory must be carried by someone willing to act. Jake shook his head. There has to be another way. There isn't, she said. But that's not the end. It's the beginning. She stood up and looked at the broken tower. The signal we sent didn't just call the enemy. It called others too. Old friends. Lost voices. Hidden listeners. Jake blinked. You mean there's more like you? Maybe, she said. Or maybe someone who still remembers kindness. Suddenly the ground shook. A deep hum rose. From below, Jake turned. On the horizon, something was falling from the sky. A shape, a ship, huge, dark, silent. They came back fast. He said Zelra's face changed. No, that's not them. The ship landed softly in the field. No weapons. No light dot, just silence. Then a door opened, and from it, a figure stepped out. Dot not metal, dot not machine. Something. Different dot tall, glowing, wrapped in robes of light. Zelra stepped. Forward slowly, dot the figure spoke in her language. Zelra gasped. Dot Jake stepped closer. What did it say? She smiled wide, full, bright. It said, Welcome home, survivor. Tears rolled down her face now. But they weren't tears of pain, Dot. They were tears of peace. The figure raised its hand and showed her a mark. Ah, marked from Iliora, her lost world. Someone else had survived. She wasn't the last. Zelra turned to Jake. It's time, she said. He held up the chip. You'll need this. She shook her head. No, you will. Jake looked at the ship. But this is your home, she nodded. It was. But Earth is yours now. And now it carries the story of two worlds. She leaned closer, and stories live longer than ships. The sky shimmered. The figure placed its hand on Zelra's shoulder. Light wrapped around her like water. She looked at Jake one last time, Dot, and whispered, You extended your hand. Now carry the light. And then she was gone. The ship rose into the sky slowly, gently. Beautifully, Jake watched it rise until it disappeared into the stars. Then he looked down at the chip in his hand. He didn't feel sadness. He felt purpose. Weeks later, Jake stood in front of a crowd. Behind him was a new building, made of steel and glass. At the center stood a statue. An old woman in a wheelchair, looking at the sky. The plaque below read, Zelra not from Earth, but one of us. Jake spoke into the mic. We were visited by someone who did not come to take or conquer or rule. She came to warn, to teach, and to remember. He paused. She gave me her story. Now I give it to all of you. Children listened. Elders nodded. Some cried. And above them, satellites now watched the skies, not for weather, but for shadows and signals and stars that move like eyes. The machines may return one day, but Earth would not be the same because it had listened, it had learned, and it had loved someone who came from the stars in an old wheelchair with a broken heart and a message of hope.